Push.
There you go. To the NBA, and after going 1-3 since LeBron returned to the lineup, Luka and the Lakers have now won back-to-back games. They now just sit 2.5 games back of the Rockets for the 2 seed and face them again on April the 11th. Lakers also hosting the Warriors this Thursday and face the Thunder twice on the road next week. NBA analyst Danny Green joining us now. Danny, what jumped out to you about the Lakers last night when you were watching them play?
Well, both teams didn't shoot great to start the game, but what showed me is that they have the help that they need. Luka and Bron and Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith, they gave you some looks of what they can do for that type of team. Off the bench, their bench production was really good. Obviously, it's tough to do for every game in a 7-game series, but these guys can get you a game or two, which is all you need when you have that big three. So with how they produced offensively off the bench and then defensively, they played great. They rotated, they moved around, they were on a string. Bron at the 5 made some great defensive plays, but the others really stepped up last night, and I was impressed by that.
All right, we just went through what the upcoming schedule looks like. What do you hope to learn about Los Angeles during this final stretch of the season?
I mean, this is gut check time, right? It's money time. We want to see who's in rhythm, who's making their stride, and for them, are they going to get back to the defensive position that they were in 20 games ago before LeBron got hurt? So I want to see how well they pick it up, what their effort is like, and how efficient they can be in doing so with the small ball theme. So I'm looking for them. Obviously, they're big three to score well, but defensively is the big key for them and how they can rotate and see what JJ can lift them up to be.
All right, Danny Green, appreciate you. See you back a little later in the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Always love hearing about people who watched the greats that I didn't get to see before. So at the end of the show today, I'm kind of excited, a little curveball, talk about Lem Bias. But we're going to start with the Lakers win over the Rockets, 104-98. There's a lot of notes and a lot of really interesting stuff that happened in this game. But where do you want to start with this one, Legs?
I think I want to start with some guys that played in this game that made me think as I was watching them. We know the stars drive everything in this league, and you need those guys to play well. That goes without saying. But then there are these other guys that are such a significant difference maker on a nightly basis. When they play well, I view these teams completely differently. And I thought each of these teams that played last night, Houston and the Lakers, each have 2 of those guys. And you saw it on display last night. And so for me, that's what kind of was standing out, particularly for the Lakers, and the importance of Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah. Neither one of these teams are great 3-point shooting teams. In fact, Houston is they're not even average. I mean, they're a team that is anemic from the 3-point line most nights. I know that Ime Udoka is probably sitting there keeping his fingers crossed on any given night. Please, somebody make some threes in this game. The Lakers aren't a great 3-point shooting team. They're a little bit better than Houston, and they took too many, in my opinion, in this game. I just thought that for the Lakers to be up there in the 46 attempt range is not a good night for them. So you better hope some of those are going in if you're going to take that many. And Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith hit 6 each. And I'm thinking to myself, with Luka LeBron and Austin Reeves, you've got enough guys to initiate the offense. They're going to do their thing most nights. They're not going to challenge in the Western Conference unless they get 3-point shooting at a high volume from their role players. And I think those are the 2 most important guys they have. And Vincent's completely turned his season around over the last couple of months, and he was fantastic in this game. They don't win without his corner 3-point shooting in this game. Dorian Finney-Smith as well. He knows how to play off of Luka better than anybody else they have, finding the open pockets, anticipates the passes coming. So I thought, Adam, their 12 made threes really is why they win this game. Neither team played great offensively. The defense was there for both sides, playing hard, competing, challenging everything. Offense wasn't very good, particularly the first quarter, but the shot making ultimately of those role players and the opportunities they got to cash in, I thought was the difference in the game. And it could be the difference in the Lakers team. And then we'll talk about the 2 guys I had for the Rockets as well. But let me get your thoughts on that first, the Lakers guys I mentioned.
Well, first of all, it was 16 made threes, not 12. So it was even more, than you were referencing.
Oh, no, I meant 12, those 2 guys. 12 just between those 2 guys. I meant like those 2 guys had
6
12.
for 11 for Dorian Finney-Smith, 6 for 13 from Gabe Vincent. So you're right. A majority of their 3-point shot making came from those 2 guys. What stood out to me watching this game is, the Lakers made this move for Luka Doncic, obviously have the belief that they can go far, maybe even win it all this year, but it really was setting it up for the future. And when you look at this game, to me, it felt like a blueprint of what we are going to see especially next year and in the years to come, because you had Austin Reeves, you had Luka, you had LeBron, and all of those guys just beating. When you spread it out, play 5 out, there's so much space for them to operate. And there was great passing from both LeBron, Luka, even Austin Reeves late in the game, where they would get into the defense and throw these hard, like usually you're driving to the paint, skip it to like the direction you're going. You have 2 or 3 guys on the weak side. They were making these incredible passes in the fourth that were like driving and almost passing backwards, like 180 passes, because they're capable of making those passes. And when you see the spacing will be there. The shot making is up and down, but last night you saw what it looks like when the shot making goes in, and they just create shots in the clutch that are make or miss. Like those are great shots. If guys are able to make them, you're going to win every time.
And look, the way the teams are going to play them, and you saw this last night with Houston, who I've been watching Houston a lot this year, and they played a lot more zone, I felt like, last night than they normally do. And I think that they believed this is the way maybe to defend the Lakers. It's a blueprint for them. If somehow they were to see them down the road, you could see that this is something they feel like gives them a better chance to contain the ball at the point of attack rather than defending ball screens with Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, because of the challenges that represents. Gives 3 different guys that are elite level at getting switches, at finding guys out of that, at getting their own offense. So Houston went to some zone. And I thought it was pretty good at disrupting the rhythm of the Lakers for the most part. The game was played at a favorable pace, I thought, for the Rockets. But they just didn't have enough offense in this game ultimately. And they weren't counting, the Rockets, on the Lakers shooting like that from the three-point line, particularly those 2 guys. They didn't shoot a great percentage. 34% for the game is not great. They were 16 for 46. But they were so timely at the times that they hit those threes that it made Houston pay defensively when you absolutely had to have it. On a night when Houston played well enough defensively, I felt like, to win the game, their offense really let them down. And the Lakers were the ones that made the bigger shots when they had to have it in the key times in the game.
Yeah. I want to call out a couple specific plays. Luka had a hustle play in the fourth quarter to disrupt a Tari Eason 3-point shot, ended up turning into a turnover. And it's the type of play we don't see from him specifically all the time. He'll make hustle plays here and there, but that was just a sprint back in transition. Like, he was out of the frame and he comes to contest Tari. Tari didn't see him, sees him at the last second and kind of just throws the ball away. And it stood out to me. Again, just like ramping up to the playoffs. Luka, obviously a great player, but doesn't always make those ones, and that one jumped out.
Well, I saw several times, it's funny you said that, because I made a note of that during the game, that not just that play. There were several times, even on a push off the defensive glass, where I thought his straight ahead speed was better than it's been all year. And I guess that's just a factor of getting into shape. Probably lost a little bit of weight. His wind is better. He feels stronger than he did when he first started playing with the Lakers. Even certainly in the beginning of the season, he didn't look like he wanted to ever play fast. I thought there were some straight ahead sprints on both directions last night for Luka. It's a really good sign, where he looked a little bit more athletic. He looked quicker, lighter on his feet, and not just as slow and plodding as he can look at times. So the other thing I noticed about him, I made a note of, I don't know, man, if I could think of anybody, maybe Steve Nash, who delivers the ball to bigs the way that Luka does, and how easy he makes it for big guys off the slip, the dive, when they're in the dunker spot on the baseline. His timing of his delivery and where he puts the ball, the accuracy with where he puts the ball on lobs, or even on throwing it to like Jackson Hayes on a dive, where he puts it, so that for number one, they can catch it clean, but also they catch it in a place where the ball is not going to be bothered by whoever is rotating over. Luka has such a knack for giving it to them at exactly the right time. Makes the game so easy. I know at times Luka can over dribble, and you do see stretches in almost every game. There's a few minutes where you kind of go, man, guys are just standing around watching Luka, and especially if he misses 2 or 3 shots in a row, the offense can get clunky. But then you'll see this brilliance out of him and picking teams apart with his passing. And I saw examples of it last night that made me think, like, man, what a dream for guys like in Dallas, Lively and Gafford, and now for Jackson Hayes, to be able to play with a guy like this. And you have such a simple job offensively. Screen as much as you can, and if you're willing to sprint to the rim every time, this guy's going to reward you and make you an impact player.
It almost reminds me, I think Blake Griffin, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in the Lob City era, he was saying, you know, who gives you the best like highlight reel dunks? And he says, not Chris Paul. He puts it too perfectly. Like he just makes it so you just have the easiest. Luka has the same thing. He just will put the ball in a spot where it's not even almost not impressive to dunk because it's just so perfectly placed that the finish becomes easy. Another play I have highlighted, and I thought this was the play of the game actually. Lakers are up 3, 2 minutes to go. LeBron, the Rockets, I thought, did a very good job in this game when they were manned up. When they got switches they didn't like, they did a good job of scram switching behind it so that they weren't, you know, they didn't have a bad guy on ball or a bad person in the low man. Well, they got mixed up on one, and Rui was in the dunker. Şengün tried to switch off of LeBron, and so Jabari Smith would have had to rotate over to LeBron. And Jabari took kind of a weird angle. Instead of getting in front of him, he almost shaded to the side to take away the corner pass, gave LeBron a straight line drive to the paint, rifled a quick pass to Rui in the dunker for a wide open dunk to push it to 5. And to me, it was a mistake by Houston, but in a great play by LeBron. And to me, like that's the margin, especially in a playoff series. Those are the margins because LeBron will make that play every time. And though they did the great scram switching all game, that one mistake in that moment opened up the game to a 5-point lead.
Well, and this is why the pairing of these two guys is such a problem, man, because it's one thing if there's one guy on that level that can make those type of reads and plays. You know, you could figure out a way to keep coming at him with your game plan. If it's one guy, get the ball out of his hands, you know, whatever you have to do at all costs, sell out to making him give it up. Can't do that with this team. And it's not just LeBron and Luka. Then you got Austin Reeves you got to deal with as well. So, look, I think offensively, I'm pretty confident the Lakers are going to be good enough offensively, right? At most nights, they're going to have enough with those 3 guys if they make some shots. Defense has been the thing. Like they were so good before LeBron went down. They've struggled since then. I thought this was a step in the right direction. You know, Houston had a weird night. I don't know what went on with Jalen Green. They sat him a good chunk of the fourth quarter. He looked miserable. They finally put him back in late. The game was still winnable, and he didn't look like he was really too engaged or wanted to be out there. He had a weird look on his face and body language. I guess he was irritated sitting there for that chunk of the fourth. They decided to go with Van Vliet. I thought I guess Ime Udoka thought Jalen Green, whatever, didn't have it that night. We're going to go with the team that I think is a little bit smarter. He did that and tried to go back to Jalen Green late. So I thought Houston had some issues offensively that helped the Lakers. But for the most part, what I noticed was the Lakers were playing very hard. They were very physical. They were on point with their switches and their closeouts and their communications and talking, their commitment to transition defense. I thought it was a really high-level defensive game out of the Lakers, and that is what it's going to take for the teams they're going to have to go up against and beat, because I think that is the question mark. Defensively, are they going to be good enough? I think offensively, most nights they're going to have the answers with their top 3 guys. Defensively, they can have some wild swings, and I thought last night it was really, really solid. It's a good sign. We're down here, you know, less than 10 games to go. We got 6-7 games left for these teams. It's important to get your defense together and tightened up and make that your identity. And I thought the Lakers did a good job of that last night.
Well, they had a couple steals in the clutch that were huge, including one from Austin Reeves where he's guarding the perimeter and there was a lob inside and he dug inside to get it, which required like a full sprint, a great break on the ball and a full sprint. They had another one like that. So to your point, their defense, their rotations were good. I thought Houston had a little bit of lazy passes. Some of those passes I think could have made it, including that lob, but it was a little late and a little slow. Like the pass inside hung in the air long enough for the defense to rotate. So things like that, because Houston has such a hard time scoring anyway, those types of plays when there's a tight opening, they have to come on time. If I were to ask, though, because you said there's 2 players on Houston's side that you think are swing factors, I have to imagine one of them is Jabari Smith.
No question. Jabari Smith, when Jabari Smith plays like he did last night, it makes you think that, you know, have much more of a belief in the Houston Rockets' ability to actually hold on to the 2 spot and, you know, to be a problem and a tough out. He was so aggressive in looking for his shot in this game. And he had just so much bounce and energy, even off the glass. And he coming off the bench played 27 minutes, but I just thought he was different than pretty much everybody outside of Amen Thompson in this game for Houston, with the amount of energy he was playing with, confidence he was playing with. And then he shot the ball really, really well. 3 for 6 from the 3, 6 for 10 overall. He's one. The other one is a guy I've talked about a lot, with the Rockets. And, sometimes I think he's got almost, a confidence level that doesn't make a lot of sense for some of us. And it's Dillon Brooks.
Yep.
And Dillon Brooks, he can get going and string some together and get hot. Look, and he does a lot of things to help you with his physicality, toughness, who he guards, gets in their head. All of that stuff plays into who Dillon Brooks is. But when he makes shots, that's when he has the real value for Houston. He didn't shoot the ball great in this one, just 3 for 9 from the three. And he had some really good looks that didn't go in. So he's the other guy for me because they desperately need 3-point shooting. And, what they make in this game? 10. 10 is going to be tough a lot of nights in the NBA, even in the playoffs, to win games. If your margin is -18, -24 for the 3-point line, very tough to win no matter how hard you play. And so that's why his 3-point shooting is so important. And Jabari Smith is the other guy. When he's up there in that 15 to 20-point range, Houston's a different team to me.
Well, I'll start with Dillon Brooks because these guys are the two guys I had notes on as well. Dillon Brooks always has this where he takes about 10, his trigger is about 10% too loose than it needs to be. And he had one on the left wing. It was like a swing around the corner, but he wasn't open. It was a swing. He catches the ball in the left wing in a pivotal moment, and he rises into a contested 3-point shot. And it was at a point in time when you knew Houston was struggling to score. Every possession mattered. You had to work the ball to find the seams. And it was just one of those ones where it's like, man, if you cut those out, those are the ones the team can't afford because he's not going to hit that one. The contested, quick, wasn't really in great rhythm, quick, get the shot off. Those are the ones that you can't erase it, I don't think, from a player like him. He's wired to kind of be aggressive like that. And I thought it was a killer. I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, he's a wild card offensively because he's risky and he's unpredictable. And that probably is tough for Ime Udoka. Look, the guy's going to play a lot of minutes for them because I think Ime Udoka values the other stuff so much that Dillon Brooks is going to be out there. He's going to be out there a lot. He's going to be out there in the fourth quarter. He's going to be out there late in games. The ball's going to end up in his hands. What is he going to do with it? And I think that's where kind of, if you're a Houston Rockets fan, you're in for a wild ride. Those are the possessions where you're kind of like, oh man, you can almost see as the play is developing up the floor, where Dillon Brooks is located, there's a good chance he's letting this thing fly if he touches it. And there are nights he can get hot, and they're a different team to me when both of those guys are playing well offensively. I kind of feel like I know what to expect from just about everybody else. It's going to be pretty consistent. I think those two guys, and Jabari Smith's a pretty consistent player, but some nights his ceiling moves. And those are the nights when the Rockets just look much more impressive to me. When Dillon Brooks plays smarter, particularly in the last 4 or 5 minutes of close games, that's when, the Houston Rockets, they look formidable.
Well, about a month ago, we talked about the Rockets, and I gave the take that Jabari Smith can play soft at times, and that's one of the things that's difficult with him. He was not soft in this game. 11 rebounds, and a lot of them were very contested. He had some drives to the basket where he elevated with confidence, into contact, this or that. I thought this was a very tough game from him. And soft, sometimes you get soft, you mean, oh, he's weak mentally or this or that. I just think he's a finesse player who can go to finesse too often when power's more needed. And I just thought he went to power appropriately last night. And so I just wanted to call it out because it's something I had noted on him before, and I do not think that was the case at all last night.
No, that's a good point. I think this game to me, going into the night, I'm going, man, this is a huge game in the Western Conference. There was no other way to view it, and it had that feel about it. The pace was kind of slow. It was physical. Both teams were challenging everything. So I think the power and in the paint and playing stronger with the ball was going to be a major factor in this game. And I also thought free throw shooting was important. Dillon Brooks missed a big one late. Yeah, you had a chance to cut it to 1. Down 3, he gets fouled, 20 seconds to go. You make both, you're down by 1. You're going to have to foul, but even if they make both, you're still one possession, one shot from tying the game. So missing that first free throw when he went to the line, that was big. He's made the second to cut it to 2. But then when they fouled LeBron, he makes both 4-point game over. So the free throw shooting is so important when you're down and you're trying to cut into the lead or get into a one possession game. you get an opportunity to stop the clock and score, you're going to have to convert. And so Dillon Brooks had a big miss last night.
The last note I have on this game, Lakers pretty small. They do have Jackson Hayes who gives them 14 minutes, but they're pretty small beyond that. And they, with Şengün out there for 35 minutes, the Lakers do a nice job on bigs. I mean, a lot of their strategy is going to be to play small and really count on their rotations and their speed and everything else. And that worked in this matchup. It obviously it worked, in some of their other high-profile matchups against bigs a month ago when Luka first got there. But to see it again against Şengün was another note. Just like file it away. The Lakers seem to know what they're going to do against these bigs.
This is what I think, if JJ Redick looks at his team and he doesn't, he's not a guy I don't think would ever even want to play two bigs. I'm not sure JJ Redick wants to play one big a lot of times. So what you have to have, if that's the case, and they got one, Jackson Hayes is active, he's athletic, he only played 14 minutes in the game though. So where was the defense coming from against a guy like Şengün who could really hurt you in the paint because he's so big and skilled? They have 4 different guys, man, that are very similarly built. In that 6'8" range, kind of thick, LeBron, Dorian Finney-Smith, Vanderbilt, and Hachimura. All 4 of those guys can hold their ground if they get switches on Şengün. And he's going to make some shots because he's got a soft touch. But they weren't allowing him to get the position that he really wanted to get. So he was catching the ball before he wanted to. And that means his shot was just a foot or 2 or 3 feet further out than it wanted it to be with some of those jump hooks. And he goes to a left-hand jump hook sometimes. He was further up the lane than he wanted to be because of the physical strength of the forwards of the Lakers who were able to do a really good job pushing him out. And I think that's what JJ Redick is counting on. If these guys were more slightly built, they got a problem because they only have the one big. But the fact that those 4 guys are so strong and they're all really athletic and slide their feet well, JJ Redick could do different things defensively that I think more so than some coaches in this league that don't have a stable of guys that fit that physical profile.
This felt like a stabilizing win for the Lakers. It pulls them within 1 game in the loss column now of the Nuggets. It pulls them within 2 in the loss column of the Rockets, whom they play again here, I believe, later this week or early next week. So they'll have a chance to gain at least 1 more game on the Rockets should they do that. So it was a big one. It also puts them 2 up in the loss column on the Grizzlies. So the odds of the Lakers having home court advantage in the first round are pretty high right now with only a handful of weeks to go. So that's a big one. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to get to a couple other games, including Kings, Pacers, Celtics, Grizzlies, quick hitters, and then we're going to